From my standpoint, Leader McConnell speaks for himself. In this case, I don't believe he speaks for the conference. And I think he needs to be a little careful. You know, when I speak, I do actually try and take in mind how it might reflect on the party.
Mitch McConnell's decision to acquit Donald Trump before he then excoriated Donald Trump is a perfect example of the split in the Republican Party. In fact, here is Ben Sasse, one of the 7 who voted to convict earlier today.
Is this still Donald Trump's party?
I mean, if you look at polling in the short term, it surely appears that way. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff the party of Lincoln and Reagan needs to do to persuade people we have a 2030 agenda, not a 30-minute Twitter agenda.
Back tonight, 2 of our returning veterans, Jason Johnson, campaign veteran, journalist, contributor to the GRIO, a professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University, and Tim Miller, a contributor to the Bulwark and former communications director for one Jeb Bush. And Tim, indeed, as advertised, as I threatened, I am about to play the Lindsey Graham comments again. This is tonight on Fox News. We will discuss on the other side.
What I would say to Senator McConnell, I know Trump can be a handful, but he is the most dominant figure in the Republican Party. We don't have a snowball's chance in hell of taking back the majority without Donald Trump. I'm sorry what happened on January the 6th. He'll get his fair share of blame. But to my Republican colleagues in the Senate, let's try to work together. Realize that without President Trump, we're never going to get back in the majority. And to President Trump, you're going to have to make some changes.
Tim, what does this mean for the party when that guy says publicly and in front of all of them, in effect, we've got no other game?
Well, Brian, I don't know why you're punishing me, making me watch Lindsey Graham again. But look, I'll give points to Lindsey Graham and Ron Johnson for this. It was a rare, honest comment from both of them over the past 4 years. I think Lindsey used to speak his mind, but lately it's been a lot of bad faith BS from him. But he is telling the truth, and so is Ron Johnson. They have both decided that they need to swallow their true feelings about Donald Trump in order to do what's best for the party. And so if they need to, pretend like an armed insurrection and a coup on our Capitol that resulted in the death of at least one police officer was actually no big deal, or not really an armed insurrection, as Ron Johnson said, or maybe something that he might have to be held a little accountable for, but not worth getting into a fight over, like Lindsey Graham is saying, that's them being honest about what the kind of moral sacrifices they feel like they need to make to keep this party together. And I think their political calculation is sadly right. You know, Rand Paul said that a third of the party would have left had they convicted Donald Trump. I think Rand's right, and Ron's right, and Lindsey's right. They might be wrong morally, but they're making the political calculation that they need in order to keep this party afloat. Insurrection and dead police officers be damned.
Jason Johnson, deep breath. Is it at minimum clarifying for the other party to hear the opposition say, we got no other game?
I mean, Brian, I think they should have known this about the Republicans a long time. Like, Lindsey Graham basically said, about Trump, like, you had me at there's good people on both sides, right? Like, they have been in love and committed to Trump for years now. This is not new. What I think is compelling, though, is I think their math is actually off. Donald Trump has never given them a majority. Donald Trump didn't win the majority of the popular vote. Donald Trump, after getting into office, had a streak of losing special elections time after time after time. Donald Trump lost them the House and the Senate. So the idea of hitching yourself to Donald Trump is myth-making at this point, because the proof of the pudding, the proof of actual election success, doesn't seem to happen with this guy. So this commitment must be ideological, because if they're really thinking about the future of the party, they shouldn't be looking for a Donald Trump. They should be looking for somebody who actually has an ideology and a record and a message that can win you majority seats, not just keep these thin margins from place to place that you got to fight every 2 years.
So, Tim, there's a Politico piece about Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, being a possible 2024 GOP presidential nominee. I'm guessing it's based on the strength of his robust leadership on coronavirus. Just kidding. There was nothing of the sort. Can you believe we're having this conversation?
You know, I can. I mean, I think, look, there was a 2024 poll that came out this morning that had Trump and his kid up over 60% together with Republican primary voters. So I think that anybody that's not inside the Trump family apparatus right now is kidding themselves that they think they're going to run in 2024. But, you know, it's a long time out. Look, I think to Jason's point, though, you know, here's the thing. I think Jason's point was right in 2015. Right? Like that this party could have grown and could have added voters in the suburbs, could have added voters of color, could have added women in the time pre-Trump. But now they are stuck with him. I understand that it's possible in an imaginary world that they could grow without him, but there is this huge percentage of the party that would leave. They are in a Trump cult, and so no matter who it is in 2024, they're going to have to run on a platform where they pretend that Donald Trump did a good job and where they pretend that the election was stolen from them in 2020. So whether that's Trump or Ron DeSantis or Kristi Noem, that will be the platform of the Republican 2024 nominee. All of the policy stuff, you know, doesn't matter at this point, believe it or not, Brian.
Jason, I'm coming to you at the top of our next segment. Both of these gentlemen have agreed to stay with us. Coming up, more on how Trump world is reacting specifically to this new lawsuit against the ex-president. More on that when we come back.
The Senate refused to do what I felt was their job, is to convict Donald Trump. This lawsuit is another opportunity.
So the federal lawsuit filed by the NAACP on behalf of Mississippi Congressman Benny Thompson accuses the impeached former president and Rudy Giuliani and the extremist groups like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers of conspiring to incite the insurrection. The suit alleges a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1871, known as the Ku Klux Klan Act, and preventing members of Congress from carrying out their constitutional duties, in this case, counting up the electoral votes. Here is part of what Trump's advisor, Jason Miller, has to say in response, and we quote, "President Trump has been acquitted in the Democrats' latest impeachment witch hunt, and the facts are irrefutable. President Trump did not plan, produce, or organize the January 6th rally on the Ellipse." Miller goes on to say Rudy Giuliani no longer represents Trump in any legal matters, though we've confirmed he has stopped oozing. So he has that going for him. Still with us are Jason Johnson and Tim Miller. Hey, Professor, if I'm one of your students at Morgan State, I did hear a law professor today say this lawsuit may have some really good kick in it. Remind us what this could accomplish.
Basically, like I said, if you can't throw white nationalists in jail, you can empty their pockets, right? This is a civil case. And so there could be financial damages if Donald Trump or members of his administration are seen to be guilty of starting this insurrection. And here's the thing. Unlike what Jason Miller is trying to pull off, another sort of sleight of hand, well, you know, he was acquitted in the Senate. As Republicans were fond of mentioning throughout the entire impeachment, that was actually not a legal court trial. It was not following the rules of actually being in the courthouse. And the threshold for convicting someone in a civil case is much lower than what it is in a criminal case. So these guys can be found financially liable, and that could be in the millions for Donald Trump or Rudy Giuliani, given the damage to the Capitol building, the pain and suffering inflicted upon people, and the potential damages throughout the entire area, not to mention the police officers who were harmed. So this is a serious case they need to be concerned about, and they need to be going to a GoFundMe because it's going to cost them a lot of money.
Tim, let's agree that these were terrorists on 1/6. If they'd been al-Qaeda terrorists who had taken over the well of the Senate, nation would be going crazy, heads exploding up in arms. This brings us to the possibility of a 9/11 style commission. I made the point last night that sadly, most Americans can't tell you what was in the 9/11 commission report, so maybe this one can have teeth. But do you believe Republicans should join Democrats in pushing for it. And I ask because, and you mentioned this earlier, there is this effort to fuzz up what happened already, videotape and still pictures notwithstanding, from several people, including but not limited to Ron Johnson, whose pronouns are comrade and Vladimir.
Yeah, Brian, look, to answer the question, absolutely there should be a 9/11 commission. I think if you look back, 9/11 style commission for 1/6, if you look back at the 9/11 commission, it was chaired by former elected officials, which I think is appropriate here. I think that if you looked at former Republican elected officials who are not beholden to the cult of Donald Trump, they might be able to work with Democrats and do this fairly and put together a commission that looks at but what happened, what the security failures are, but also what led up to it. And that's the key point. And I saw that, my friend Dan Crenshaw down there in Texas said that any commission that looks into what caused this is just going to be a political hatchet job or whatever. And you can understand why they wouldn't want to look at what caused it, because they would know that that the terrorist incitement was coming from inside the house. It was coming from people, that signed those letters calling for overturning the results. It was coming from the people that went on Newsmax and OAN and all the various far-right news outlets. So it is important to go through all of that. And I think that for one reason, to help prevent people from whitewashing what happened so we don't have to live through it all again. I mean, it is crazy to me, I think, how many of folks are now, Republicans are just going back on Newsmax. They're going back on the same channel with the people that were calling for the coup. You didn't see people in October of 2001 going on, Al-Qaeda News Network, right? It is, the difference is very stark in how it's been treated. And so I think looking into it and exposing it is going to be important.
Because the big lie is still alive and well out there in our country. Our thanks. This is always a great group, to Jason Johnson and Tim Miller. Gentlemen, greatly appreciate you taking our questions tonight.